what? I am happy for a number of reasons. One, it is the first time we have seen the sun for the first time in what seems like close to 2 weeks. It was a rough stretch there. Two, my parents are in town from Seattle visiting for the holidays, so it's always wonderful to see them and let the kids see their grandparents. I am so excited that they're here. And three, we get to talk about another amazing sales week. This is 2 back-to-back, just great, phenomenal sales weeks. And then it goes back into the toilet. But instead of looking ahead at the stinkiness to come, let's just revel in the awesomeness that is this sales week that we're going to talk about. And really, when I look at the kinds of items that sold, and when I think about how did this week happen, especially when I just came off of a really great week, it is because I was listing really great bolos and because I was cross-listing. I had things sell across, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 platforms. Now, one of those platforms was Whatnot, and another platform was a direct sale. So 6 typical platforms, and then 2 just random things. You guys already know if you watch my channel, but I know that the reason why I'm able to list on so many different platforms as quickly as I do is only because of List Perfectly. If you want to try it out yourself too, I do have a coupon code down in the description below where you can save 30% on your first month of List Perfectly. So let's get right into my week of sales of amazing bolos and items that sold across a number of platforms. Let's go.
Won't nobody love you the way they should. Won't nobody check up on you, make sure you're good. Won't nobody check those body buttons for your neck.
Hi everyone, my name is Becky Park. I'm a part-time reseller on a variety of reselling platforms like I talked about at the beginning of the video. I sell on lots of platforms, and right now I have just kickstarted my winter break. So my hope is to film all of the what sold videos that have kept me behind, and also to just spend a lot of great time with my family. I do not anticipate making a lot of sales during this time, and I'm okay with that. I haven't listed anything in the last 3 days, but instead I've just been prioritizing spending time with my family. You know, we're trying to sell our house that we're in right now so that we can move into a different one. There's a lot going on, and I'm just trying to show myself some grace. But I do feel like talking about great weeks like the week I'm going to share with you today really is kind of motivating to, you know, kick me in the butt a little bit to say,
okay, maybe you should do something.
So let's go through this week of sales, and hopefully it is as motivating to you as it is to me. So we're going to start by talking about Monday, which was November 14th. The first thing that sold on eBay was an item that I have been waiting for this to sell for so long, and I'm very excited that it finally did. So it was this new with tags Lily Pulitzer Oshella Cadden scalloped crop top in a size 4. So the style name was the Oshella Cadden, and this actually is a 2-piece outfit. You can buy the top with, I believe it was like a skirt. I only had the top. It was new with tags, and I actually got it as part of a ThredUp bulk mixed rescue box. So there were a lot of pretty stinky things in that 200 pounds of clothes, but also some winners like this one. The catch when it comes to this item is that it had been listed for a really long time, like months and months and months, close to a year, and I definitely was not expecting it to sell in the middle of November, but I do believe what I did was I relisted the item because, you know, eBay will automatically relist your items for you anyway after 30 days. So instead, I went ahead and ended the listing and relisted it on my own terms, and in doing so, I also played around with the pricing a little bit. I do think I had it priced maybe a little too high to begin with at around $75. So when I relisted it, I dropped the price to $69.99. That seemed to do the trick. I don't know, that plus the relisting. It was promoted at 3%. I had $2 into it because that was my average cost of goods for everything that was in that ThredUp bulk box. And so I made a profit on that piece of $56.73. Not all Lily Pulitzer is worth picking up. And again, I didn't even pick this one up, but I definitely would have if I had seen it in a thrift store because I could tell it was newer. I could tell that it was pretty desirable and it was new with tags. So the week started off with quite a bang and I was here for it. The next item to sell was over on Mercari, and on Mercari, I sold this vintage Atlantic Traders geometric print sweater in a men's size large. It was definitely more of like a Y2K style, and it was very flawed. Like, I believe this is the sweater where there was like a chunk of the sweater missing on the bottom side. I definitely took pictures of the flaw. I put the word flawed in capital letters in the listing title. It was in the description. I tried to scream from the top of my lungs through my listing that this was a flawed item. It sold literally within 48 hours of being listed. And of course, you know, as soon as the person received it, she sent me a message saying, wait a minute, there's a huge hole in this, or like a huge chunk of it is missing. I need a refund. So I wrote back to her and I said, I don't know if you saw this, but like the word flawed is everywhere in this listing. And I took pictures of the flaw that you're talking about. It's not like I was trying to secretly hide the fact that there was an issue with this and then sell it to you. It was priced so low because of the fact that, there was a huge flaw. And when I pressed send, it wouldn't send because I think she had blocked me. Because I think she realized after she sent me the message, I think she looked at the listing, saw that all of the information was there, and like didn't want to have to deal with me. So I waited around to see if she was going to try and open a case. I think she knew better than to do that because I think she knew that she didn't have a case. I literally put flawed everywhere. So that's all she wrote. I got my money. She has her sweater, and I don't know. This piece did come to me from Fleek. Fleek is an online vintage wholesale reselling platform. It's kind of like eBay for vintage sellers. So you can buy like lots of sweaters or Carhartt pieces or whatever it is that you want to buy. There's someone selling it. So I tried them out for the first time after they reached out to me about doing a partnership, and I picked out a box of 25 men's vintage sweaters. There were a few like this one that had some flaws. This was probably the worst flaw. Like I said, a chunk of the sweater was missing, but I listed every single sweater as is. I do have a handful left. I do have 1 or 2 left also that still have flaws in them, but for the most part, they have been selling so well, and I think that's part of the reason why I had such a monstrous week this week. So I had $1.82 into that piece because they did give me some credit towards that box. That was like the partnership, if you will. So if I didn't have that credit, I probably would have had about $14, $15 into the sweater, but because of the credit, I only had $1.82 into it, so I made a profit of $21.27. Even on an item that's super flawed. I know there are a lot of different schools of thought with this. I subscribe to the idea that even if something has a flaw, you go ahead and list it because chances are there are people out there who don't care and they still want the item. You also run into the risk of people not reading very carefully and not looking at all of the pictures and purchasing something and not realizing until they get it that it's going to have a big flaw. But I think that the pros outweigh the cons, so I will continue to list flaw things. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm out there actively looking for flawed things to sell. It's just if I get something home and I realize, oh shoot, I missed this flaw at the store, or perhaps, it's something that I get for free from a friend or something. If it's worth it to list with the flaw, I'll go ahead and do it. Let me know what your thoughts are on that in the comment section below. Moving on to the next platform, literally on this Monday, I sold on 4 different platforms, plus I had a direct sale. So it was a good reminder of why I love List Perfectly. But on Depop, I sold this vintage Cellini, I don't know how to say it. Cellini collezione. I don't know why I feel like you have to do this when you're trying to speak Italian. It's like very much in the shoulders, I guess. I don't know. But it was this green 3D knit textured sweater in a size extra large. This definitely screamed Cosby vibes. It was definitely like that hip hop 90s feel. This sold for $85 plus the buyer paid for shipping on Depop. So again, I only had $1.82 into it because it came to me from that Fleek box that I purchased. And so I made a profit on this one sweater of $70.82. I talked about a really great sweater that was similar to this that I sold last week by Croft & Barrow. This one was by Cellini Collezioni. I don't know anything about that brand. It doesn't even matter. Brand doesn't even matter if it has the 3D textured knit on the front, just like the Cosby sweaters, just like those old Coogee style sweaters. If you come across anything like that, it doesn't matter what the brand is. It doesn't matter if the label has been ripped out of the sweater, and it doesn't even super matter what the sweater is made out of. I do think this one was just cotton, if I remember correctly. The acrylic ones maybe won't do as well, but if it has this look, people are still looking for it. This sweater had been listed for about 4 days. And then basically my worst nightmare came true. We're like within a span of, I want to say 10 minutes, this sweater sold on 3 different platforms. It sold here on Depop. It sold on Facebook Marketplace, of all places. And it sold somewhere more normal, like Mercari or something like that. I was in a faculty meeting at school, so when it first sold, I couldn't just whip out my computer or phone and like try to delete the listings from all of the other platforms that it had been listed on. Plus, I was like, surely I don't need to do this right now because it's not like it's gonna sell on 2 other platforms within 10 minutes of each other. That's precisely what happened. So that was really frustrating to have to reach out to, the buyers on the other platforms and explained to them what happened. The Facebook Marketplace buyer in particular was like really irritated and upset. And I get it, like she was trying to get it for her daughter. And I sent her links of other sweaters that I had that were similar, but this had been her favorite. What can you do? I had to honor the first sale. So I did make a pretty penny on that. I did have to go through a few unpleasantries because it was just so desirable in its fourth day of being listed that everyone and their mom wanted it. But I made a really great profit at the end. So I would say it was worth it. The next thing to sell was on Facebook Marketplace, and this was another sweater from that Fleek box. It was this vintage Conte di Roma, so lots of Italian pieces, I don't know. 100% wool color block sweater in a size large. This one was flawed as well. I don't remember exactly what the flaw was. This one sold for $20. Again, I had $1.82 into it once you factor in the discount that I received from Fleek. And so I made a profit on that sweater of $16.58. Oh, I remember what the flaw was on that. That one was 100% wool and it appeared to have shrunk. It seems like someone put it in their dryer and you're not supposed to do that with wool pieces. So it no longer had the measurements of a men's size large. I think it had shrunk down to about a small or something. And I know there are things you can do to kind of fix that issue if someone accidentally puts a wool piece in the dryer. I don't know how to do that and I didn't really want to take the time to do it, but maybe this person was like, oh, I'll just stretch it back out and that's fine. We'll never know, but you know, they bought it, they were happy with it. There you go. The next thing to sell was actually a direct sale, and this was a result of a haul video that I did that I will link right here. I had gone thrifting out of town and found some really great pieces, including this cabbie sweater. It was this green cowl neck sweater. It was really chunky, and I don't remember all the details of it now, but I mean, I'm showing footage of it here, I think. But I just remember thinking to myself, this is not just like a super plain Jane piece. I'm gonna go ahead and pick it up. It also didn't hurt that it was only $1 because it was in the dollar section of this consignment store that I tried out while I was traveling. So I purchased it, brought it home, showed it in my haul, and Alicia, who watched that haul video, reached out and said, I would love to purchase that cabbie sweater from you. She was one of like 8 people who messaged me about this sweater. I did not expect this sweater to get that much attention, but no joke, after that video went live, I had messages from like 8 people on Instagram regarding this sweater. So I don't know what it is about this sweater. I didn't even like look up the style number to, you know, look at what the style was called and to look for stock photos or anything like that. I didn't need to, but it was just shocking to me that that many people saw that video and thought to themselves, I need to reach out to Becky to see if I can buy it from her. I guess I need to be on the lookout for this sweater in the future. So I sold it to Alicia for $30, and that was with me paying for shipping. And so after my cost of goods and shipping, I made a profit of $21.45. Alicia, I hope you love it, and I hope you are reveling in the fact that you beat out like 7 other people for this sweater. So way to be the first person out of all those people to watch the video and message me, because the early bird gets the worm, my friend. So good job. The next day of sales that we'll talk about is November 15th, which was a Tuesday. I started off with a Poshmark sale, and it was a bundle. So the first item in this bundle to sell was this J. Crew pink wool and alpaca blend high-low waffle super soft yarn sweater in a size large for women. That was surprising to me because it came to me in a men's ThredUp rescue box. And that's not to say that men cannot wear pink, but when I was looking at the sweater and looking at the size, I was like, this is not a men's size large. And sure enough, when I looked at the style number on the care tag that's on the inside of the sweater, it came up as a woman's sweater. So that item I had $3.79 into because that was my average cost of goods for that particular men's ThredUp rescue box. The next item to sell was by Saks Fifth Avenue, which is a department store, like one of the bougiest ones. And they do have a line that is specific to their department store sometimes. Bloomingdale's has done that in the past. And sometimes if you're finding like the really old pieces that say Saks Fifth Avenue or Bloomingdale's, like a really old vintage piece, those can do pretty well. This clearly was not vintage. And it was just something that I got in a wholesale pallet from a fellow reseller. But this was a black and white striped button-up shirt in a women's size 10. So both of those items were liked by the buyer, and so I put them in a bundle. I sent her a message and I said, hey, I saw that you like these 2 items. I'm sending you a really great discount with discounted shipping. Thanks for checking out my closet. And she bit. She accepted the offer of $40 with discounted shipping. I had $7.71 into both of those items. I don't know if I shared, but that Saks Fifth Avenue piece I had $3.92 into. So on those 2 pieces, I made a profit of $21.61, which isn't a ton. That's like a $10.50 profit per item, which is not huge, but I was not confident that Saks Fifth piece would sell very quickly. Even that J. Crew piece, it was okay. So I was pretty happy with that. The next item to sell was actually a blooper on my end, if you will. It was this pair of NYDJ, which is Not Your Daughter's Jeans, high-rise dark wash straight leg jeans. I couldn't find them. I think these sold a long time ago and somehow didn't get deleted on eBay, but I did actually look for them on the off chance that I did have them in my possession somehow. I don't know. These jeans really confused me. I was like, do I have these or not? Have I ever had them? Did someone sneak into my account and list these random jeans? I just could not for the life of me figure out where these jeans came from and if I had ever owned them. But I guess I didn't have them in my possession at the time, so I had to go ahead and cancel the order, which always stinks, but I am a human being that makes mistakes, so what are you gonna do? The next sale was a little bit better because I had it in my possession and was able to ship it out. It was over on Mercari, and I don't know how to say this brand name. Marielle Waith? I don't know. It was this gray plaid 100% cashmere fringe scarf, super lightweight, super classic. I was super excited when I got it in a huge pile of clothes from my friend who was moving out of town and just didn't want to take stuff that he and his wife no longer wore anymore with them. I was excited because it's 100% cashmere. However, when I looked up comps for this brand and for cashmere scarves by this brand, they did not go for very much. You would think 100% cashmere is always going to fetch at least $50 or something like that, but there were scarves going for $10, $15, $20. So this particular scarf actually sold for $22 on Mercari. I do utilize Mercari's smart pricing feature, which means you set a price on Mercari, but you also set a floor price. This is the lowest price that you're comfortable going for that particular item on Mercari. And what Mercari does is every day that your item doesn't sell, they drop the price of that item little by little until they hit your floor price. And in doing so, I do feel like it kind of triggers, the algorithm a little bit because it shows up as discounted. And I don't know, I just feel like it gets pushed out every day that the price drops. So you always get new likers and new views on the items as the price drops, but notifications are also sent out, I believe, to people who have liked the item previously, and they are alerted to the fact that you have a price drop. So a lot of times as the price is dropping, people will just buy my pieces on Mercari outright, and I think it's because of one of the latter reasons I just shared. They liked the item before and now they see that it's available to them a little bit cheaper, or now that the price dropped, it's shown to more people and more people see it and one of those people decides that they want it. I don't know, it's a strategy that I love using. And in fact, if you want to learn more about Mercari, I did make this video right here that just kind of takes you step by step through Mercari and just helps you find a little bit more success on that platform. I have grown to really love it and depend on it as a steady source of income. And this week was definitely no exception. I did pretty well over there. So it sold for $22. I had $2 into it. I gave my friend who gave me all of, his clothes some money to cover everything that he gave me, and it came out to about $2 a piece. And so I made a profit of $16.66 on his wife's scarf. The last sale that we'll talk about for Tuesday the 15th was actually over on Kitizen. It was by the brand Children's Place, which I don't think they have top-notch quality pieces, but I was so happy to get rid of this because I've had this listed forever. It was this graphic baseball t-shirt with the raglan sleeves, and it said, "Wake up, slay, repeat." It was in a youth size extra, extra large. And I think that it is harder to sell children's clothing in that size because at that point, kids are wanting to pick out their own clothes and it's just harder for parents to shop for them. I feel like you almost have to go to the mall with them and be like, okay, just pick out what you like. And it's never what you would have picked out for them. It's never anything like super sensible or even like super trendy and cute. It's always the most like gaudy I don't know. But this item sold for $13 on Kitizen with me paying for shipping, and I gladly did so, and I made a profit of $6.67. This item just appeared in my home one day. I think someone from my church just gave it to me in a pile of other stuff, and I went ahead and listed it, I don't know, like 3 years ago, and here I am getting my reward for my patience, $6.67. Moving on to Wednesday, which was November 16th, I started off the day with another 2-piece bundle, and in that bundle was another piece by J. Crew. So the first item was this J. Crew 10-inch vintage straight distressed high-rise jeans in a women's size 28. Those I had very recently picked up at a local consignment store during their birthday sale. I do have that haul video right here if you want to check it out. I got some really great pieces, and my average cost of goods per item was only $2.52 because for their birthday sale, they just do a fill a bag sale. So if you were like one of the first people there, the price per bag is a little bit more expensive, but that's because of the fact that you are getting first dibs on all the stuff. And the later the day goes, the bags become cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. One of these years when they have that sale, I need to go first thing, but I also need to go back at the end of the day and just fill bags for like $5 a bag. That would be amazing. I'm probably getting the low hung fruit. You know, it's not like the most amazing pieces, obviously, but it'll be stuff that I'm getting for like 30 cents. And even if I can sell it for 25, that's amazing. So that was the first item. And then the second item was this Urban Outfitters Ecote. That's one of their like house brands. It was this green knit long line open front cardigan in a size small. This I got for $2 in a ThredUp women's bulk mixed rescue box. I believe it was the same box as that New with Tags Lily Pulitzer piece that I talked about at the very beginning of the video. This definitely is an item that I would not have personally picked up at the thrift store if I were there myself, just because Urban Outfitters usually doesn't sell for that much. It does okay, but for whatever reason, even though it's in the same family as Free People, and I don't know, it just doesn't do as well. And so I would have left that behind, but I only had $2 into it from that ThredUp rescue box. That bundle actually sold for $45. I believe someone put both items in a bundle, sent me the offer of $45. I had $4.52 into those two items combined. So I made a profit of $28.80. So that comes out to like what, $14.40 of profit per item, which is more than the bundle from the day before. So I was happy with it. The next sale that we'll talk about was this vintage Harry Levinson gray tweed wool fedora hat with like a belt trim. It was made in the USA. I actually got this at the Bins, the Goodwill outlet in Indianapolis a couple years ago. I just thought it was fun. I don't have a lot of experience with hats, but I was like, you know what, I'll just take a chance on it. It weighed nothing. It sold for $10 and I had $1.27 into the item. That was my average cost of goods for that trip. So I made a profit of $5.78. Now I know I don't need to pick this kind of stuff up, especially because, you know, since it's been listed, and it's been listed for like, I don't know, a year and a half at this point, I did get a lot of questions regarding the hat. Like I would have people reach out and they're like, what size is the hat? And I was like,
I don't know, it doesn't say anywhere on the hat itself.
I actually like tried really hard to look at the little tag that was on the inside. Part of the issue is that the tag was stitched over, but I just didn't see any indication of a size. I tried to do measurements. I feel like the questions that people had regarding this hat, I didn't know how to get the information to them regarding their questions. And that's one of the reasons why now I know I should not be selling this kind of stuff in the future, because you need to know a lot about it in order to sell it. You need to know like what kind of measurements people are looking for. You need to, I don't know, there's a lot to know, and I don't care to take the time to learn that information because I don't think that vintage hats is something that I'm gonna come across very often. It's just not really worth my time. So I'm just gonna leave that stuff behind for someone else to pick up. The next thing to sell was over on eBay. It was this pair of Cynthia Ashby pink pull-on elastic waist pants, and I called them bloomers because isn't that what they look like? I don't even know if I know what bloomers are, but I looked at these and I was like, bloomers. I don't know. Let's look at some pictures of bloomers together. Would you have used the word bloomers after you saw those pictures? Let me know down in the comments. But they definitely had a cottagecore vibe. They were in a size small. I picked them up at a pop-up consignment sale that comes through my town twice a year. And there are like 2 consigners that have a very specific aesthetic, and it's very login look. It's very like oversized, baggy, just boho, cottagecore, all of that stuff. And I get so excited when I find their pieces in particular because I know that probably the brand is really good. I know that the items are going to be in really great condition. And I know that if I pick those items up, I'm going to be able to sell them for a really good amount. This brand actually does so well resale. It was my first time picking it up, but when I saw it at the sale, I was like, let me look up some comps. Comps were amazing. So I picked up 2 pieces. I don't know where the other piece is. It's like a brown pair of pants similar to this. I don't know if I have it like in my own closet because I was like, oh, I'm going to try to wear them. I don't need to wear them if they're worth as much as they are. So I'm going to go ahead and list them probably once I find them. These sold for $54, which is kind of on the lower end of comps for this brand for their bottoms. But I think it's because they literally looked like bloomers. And so the other piece I'm sure will actually do a lot better. I had $10.05 into those pants. And so I made a profit of $36.88. So lots of great bolos that I'm sharing in this video, things like 3D knit textured sweaters, brands like Cynthia Ashby, and this next brand is definitely a bolo as well.
Several days later.
Now, if you're thinking to yourself, it looks like a different time of day, maybe even a different day altogether, it absolutely is. It's like almost a week after I started filming this video. That's because I got a text message while I was filming that someone was coming to see our house, so I had to go. I had to exit the premises so that people could view our house in peace. Now, did those people buy our house? No, it is still up for sale, but that's okay. Also, if you're thinking to yourself, it looks like Becky's wearing 2 sweaters. I am. It's freezing. It is freezing right now in America, and so I'm wearing 2 sweaters. But let's keep talking about what sold in the week of November 14th through the 23rd. So the next bolo brand that I'm going to talk about is a brand that I have sold before, and it is a brand that I have picked up at that pop-up consignment sale before. And I do think, if I were a guessing woman, that this pair of pants came from the same person that also consigned the Cynthia Ashby pants, but the brand is Jaded Gypsy. This is a brand made in the USA. I believe it's made in Los Angeles. It's got a very hippy-dippy vibe to it. Lots of like bell bottoms, lots of, just lots of denim, lots of prints. I don't know. It's very 70s, very boho, very hippie. It's very fun. And I don't think I've ever found it in the wild. I've really only ever seen it at this particular pop-up consignment sale. Like I said, probably from that one consignor who I feel like if I saw her walking on the street, I'd be like, I know you. How do I know you? It's because I know your clothes. But it was this pair of blue paisley high-waisted pants in a size small/medium. That's another thing about this brand is their sizing is kind of interesting. They can't commit to one size. It's always small/medium or medium/large. But these pants sold for $64.99 on eBay, which I believe was my full asking price. They were promoted at 3%. My average cost of goods for that day of shopping was $10.05, and so I made a net profit on those pants of $43.97. If you have the privilege of coming across these in the wild, definitely consider picking up this brand because it has always done really, really well for me, especially their bottoms. The next day of sales that we'll talk about is Thursday, which was November 17th. I only had one sale, and it was over on Facebook Marketplace. It was this pair of American Eagle original straight khaki chino pants in a men's size 28, which is definitely on the smaller side. I think American Eagle may even go as small as 26 for men, although that's pretty rare. They're not making a ton of those in, each SKU, but 28 is typically the smallest size that you'll find. And I find that it actually sells pretty well because I think American Eagle caters a lot to teenagers, and 28 is right where, a lot of boys are just getting out of wearing youth clothing and they're starting to wear like men's clothing. So there's a lot of kids in that middle school, high school range that fit into a size 28. And when you find khakis in a size 28, I imagine that a lot of khakis in that size are being sold to kids who go to private schools or schools where you have to wear a uniform and, you have to wear khakis on the bottoms. So I always pick them up in that size and they always move for me. These sold for $25. I had $5 into them from Lord knows where. I don't know where. I didn't write it down. But I made a profit of $18.18 on those. The next day of sales that we'll talk about is Friday, November 18th. On Poshmark, I sold this weatherproof black leather pair of winter snow boots in a size youth 4. They had a bungee cord, and I knew that these would sell, and I knew that they would sell, in November or December, because these are the months that people are looking for outdoor clothes and shoes and accessories, especially for their kids, because the first thing kids want to do when it snows is go outside. So these sold for $25. I had $4 into these. I think I picked these up at a local thrift store, and so I made a net profit of $16 on those. The next thing to sell was this Zara Basic vegan leather waterfall open front jacket in a size medium. This sold for $34, and I had $3.92 into it from a wholesale pallet that I bought from a reseller. I actually really like this piece. I did sit on it for a few months, but it did eventually sell, like I said, for $34, and so I made a net profit of $23.28 on that. While I love leather jackets, I do find that the faux leather or the vegan leather, it just doesn't sell as quickly or as well. Obviously not as well because it's not, real leather, but I also tend to sit on it a lot longer. And I think that's because the faux leather market is pretty saturated. A lot of people are trying to move the fake stuff. There's not a lot of the good real stuff out there. So I personally am super careful when it comes to sourcing faux leather jackets, just because I know that, I'm not going to be able to get a ton for them, and I am going to have to sit on those pieces for a while. The next thing to sell was this Columbia red full zip quilted fleece lined vest in a size small. This one sold for $25, so, Columbia, not the best seller, but the brand will sell, and this actually was a decent amount for a vest like this. It was from the wholesale pallet from a reseller, so I had $3.92 into it, and I made a profit of $16.08 on that. On Depop, I had a great sale. It was from the Fleek box, and it was this vintage Sedgefield beige window pane sweater in a size large for men. It was made of 100% cotton. I'd never seen or heard of this Sedgefield brand before in my life, but I didn't care because I knew it was vintage and I knew it was a cool sweater. It sold for $40. You guys know I had $1.82 into each of those items from that Fleek box because of the discount that they gave me, and so I made a net profit on that sweater of $24.01. On Saturday, November 19th, I sold on a few different platforms, the first one being Poshmark, and it was this J. Crew Harlow 100% wool striped cardigan fringe sweater in a size medium. I thought this was beautiful, but it's been listed for a long time, and it just goes to prove that, J. Crew, while I think it's a great brand, I think they make quality products, it sits for a long time for me, and when I do finally move their pieces, they usually don't move for that much. So I was really thankful when this did move for $25. I only had $2 into it because it was part of a ThredUp bulk mixed rescue box that I purchased a long time ago. I think I did like 200 pounds. So I made a profit of $18 on that cardigan. I just sat on it for a long time, even though it was 100% wool, even though it was so classic and so darling. J. Crew just sits. The next thing to sell was this pair of Chico's linen pants. They were new with tags, but unfortunately the buyer did want to return them due to fit, and so I let her because I do allow returns on eBay. I got them back in one piece. Everything was fine. They're relisted, and I'm just waiting for them to sell again. Let me know down in the comments because I'm genuinely curious. Every time I talk about an eBay return, I get a lot of comments from a lot of you being like, you allow for returns? And a lot of people being like, yep, I always allow for returns. So let me know down in the comments, if you sell on eBay, do you allow for returns? And if not, what's your reasoning? And if you do allow for returns, what's your reasoning as well? I'd love for us to kind of read one another's comments and learn from one another, especially if you're on the fence about what to do. Maybe reading, other people's comments will help you figure out what course of action you want to take when it comes to returns. I've shared this before, but I'll share it again. The reason why I do accept returns is because, one, I don't want people to be stuck with items that they're not going to be able to use. Maybe, they get the item and they just don't like how they look in it, or maybe they get the item and it doesn't fit them the way that they want it to. I don't want them to be stuck with that item simply because I don't accept returns. I know that the counter argument to that is, but people will take advantage of that, and let's say they buy a beautiful dress for me and they wear it for a New Year's party, and then they want to return it to me because now the event is over and they have no use for that dress anymore. And they'll just say that they're returning it because, they didn't like how it fit or they didn't like it anymore or what have you. To be honest with you, I don't think I have ever had anything like that happen to me. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen to some people, but I've never personally had it happen to me where someone does wear something to an event and then they try to return it. Maybe it happens, and maybe it happens often to you. I don't know. For me, it's never happened. And if it does happen once or twice here or there, it is what it is, and I'm okay with it. The second reason why I do accept returns is because I don't want people to turn to desperation if they really want to send an item back. Again, maybe they don't like the item for whatever reason, and because I don't accept returns, they're stuck with the item. What I don't want is for them to, cut a hole in it or tear something, because what they might try and do is open up a case with eBay saying that the item came to them not as described. I don't want people to resort to that, so I would rather just take the return. I'm totally fine with it because I can just go ahead and relist it. Is it a little annoying to get returns? Is it kind of a headache? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, it is part of doing business. So that's my reasoning, but I would love to hear in the comments what you do when it comes to returns on eBay and why. The next thing that did sell for real was this blue turtleneck knit sweater tunic situation in a size 3XL. There was no brand name. I don't even know if there was an RN number, and if there was, I was not going to take the time to look it up because I could tell that this wasn't like a super high quality piece. It still sold even without a brand name for $15. I had $3.92 into it from that wholesale pallet, so I only made a net profit of $8.49, but I like the fact that I'm making money on these items, especially items that I would have never picked up myself. I just want to know that I'm getting a good return on this box. And it's not like it took a ton of time to photograph that item and list it. And this actually sold within a week of being listed, so I'll take it. The next thing to sell was this vintage Pendleton 100% pure virgin wool window pane sweater in a size medium. This sold on eBay for $40, and it was from the Fleek box, so I had $1.82 into it, and I made a net profit of $31.63. I do love Pendleton, but you do always want to make sure that if you find a 100% wool piece, that you are thoroughly examining the item for holes, even little tiny ones, because they do tend to show up in wool and cashmere pieces. And then on Mercari, I sold another piece from the Fleek box. This was a vintage Protégé collection textured 3D knit sweater in a size extra large. It definitely had 90s Y2K vibes, and so I put both 90s and Y2K in the listing title as well. This one sold for $29. I think I listed it lower because even though the sweater was amazing, there was a lot of yellowing around the neckline. It was, someone had sweat a lot in that thing. They'd gone to lots of parties in that sweater. So I did, I believe, list that a little bit lower. And I still made a net profit of $22.94. On Sunday, which was November 20th, on Poshmark, I sold another item with no brand name. It was this maroon V-neck A-line ruffle bridesmaid formal dress in a size 18W. This sold for $25, which I think was an offer. I think I had it listed for $35. I got an offer of $25 and I went ahead and accepted. And so I made a profit of $20 on that. My friend Melanie actually gave that to me to sell. She and I actually did a really fun Whatnot show a few months ago of clothes that she no longer fits into because she has lost so much weight. This I think wouldn't fit her anymore because of the weight that she's lost, but also she is not going to wear this anymore because it was a bridesmaid's dress. So it was really cool to be able to list that and move it on to someone else. So thank you, Mel, for that dress. The next item to sell was this pair of Banana Republic Aiden Fit green joggers. They were in a size 32 by 32 for men, and they did have an elastic waist, so they were pull on. And this is a perfect example of something that had sold on eBay and was returned due to fit, and then I was able to sell it again on Poshmark. It sold for $23. I only had 2 cents into it because it came from my friend who moved to the suburbs, and so I made a net profit of $16.40. And this time I got a love note with 5 stars on those pants, and I'm happier knowing that those pants are now in a home where they're going to be used, they're going to be worn, instead of in the home of someone who's super angry because they're not allowed to return these pants that don't fit them the way that they want them to. The next thing to sell was this Adidas Climb 365, I don't know what any of that means, black long sleeve athletic v-neck top in a size extra large for women. This sold for $12. It was from that wholesale pallet, so I had $3.92 into it, and I made a profit of $5.13, which is not a lot, but that almost gets you a green passion smoothie from Panera. That green passion smoothie is so good, but it is so expensive. How can I not buy a smoothie for $5.13? I think you have to drop like $7 for their smoothies, but it's so good. The next thing to sell was over on eBay. It was this J. Crew Factory button-down shirt. It was pink with white stripes, I believe, and this shirt had a horrible ring around the collar, like horrible. So it was actually from a friend of mine. It was in a men's size small, and I don't know, like I think there are some men who their sweat just has like some pigmentation to it, and so you see the ring around the collar. And the first few times that I came across button-up shirts that had the ring, I would take the time to try to get the stains out. I mean, I myself would. My husband would help too, but I would sit there and like spray, brush, and sometimes you could get the stains to almost come completely out. You could almost always get them to be lighter, but they were never fully gonna come out 100%, I feel like. Plus, these button-up shirts just don't sell for that much to begin with, so it just was never worth it. So this is an older shirt that I've had for a really long time, where I had decided at that point, you know what, I'm just gonna list these as is. I'm gonna make sure that I disclose the ring around the collar and just hope that whoever purchases the item reads, you know, the fact that I am disclosing this flaw and doesn't care about the ring. But also, like in the last year or so, I have decided I'm just not gonna deal with these kinds of shirts. I'm not gonna list them. I'm not going to try and clean them. I just go ahead and donate those because I have enough inventory as is. I don't need to be worrying about rings around collars. But this is an item that I have had for a long time, so it sold for $8. I had probably like $2 into it because I did give that friend some money for all of his stuff, so I made a net profit of $4.14. So you take the profit from this item and the profit from that Adidas shirt that I just talked about, and you've got enough for a green passion smoothie. So there you go. The next thing to sell was this Lacoste red short sleeve polo shirt in a size large for women. I don't typically pick up Lacoste that much anymore. I mean, it does sell, but it usually sits around for a little bit. But I picked this up because I got it at a consignment sale as part of their birthday sale. So each item came out to $2.52. I sold this polo shirt for $24.90. That was an offer that I sent out to watchers on eBay, and I made a net profit of $18.08. So when the price is right, I will pick up Lacoste. And you know, the nice thing is I didn't even actually hold on to this piece for that long. This piece sold in under 2 weeks, but a lot of times I sit on Lacoste, which is why I will only pick it up if I can pay very little for it. On Mercari, I sold this vintage Abercrombie & Fitch 100% wool green moose sweater in a size large. This sweater was majestic. I pulled this sweater out of that fleek box and I was like, it was amazing. Like, it really took my breath away. And I think it took someone else's breath away too, because it sold for $80 on Mercari. And you know it came from that fleek box, so I had $1.82 into it. So I made a net profit of $67.36 on that. This was an item that I actually teased on my Instagram, and someone reached out and was like, I'll buy that from you, $60 shipped right now. And I was like, no, I'm going to list it because I think I can get a lot higher than that. Like, yes, that would be a super quick flip, but I think I can get a lot higher, and it's going to be worth my time to photograph and list the item. And I was absolutely right. It got a ton of attention, but ultimately ended up selling for $80 on Mercari. I think I had it listed extremely high at like 100 maybe, but I just had faith that other people would be just as blown away by the sweater as I was. The interesting thing is, when I was doing my research on this sweater, there were identical sweaters as this listed with a Woolrich tag. So I thought that was really interesting. I saw some with the Woolrich tag and some with, you know, this vintage Abercrombie & Fitch tag. So I don't know what the story is behind that. If you have any insight into that, let me know. It doesn't matter though, because I sold it for $80 and made a pretty penny on that. And then the last sale that we'll talk about is I did another Whatnot show on this Sunday, and it was actually stuff that my son Levi has grown out of, and his stuff did a lot better than Lucy's stuff, but I think the reason for that is because he is only 5 years old, so all of the stuff that I was selling was size like 2T to 4T, and I think that parents love shopping for clothes for their kids for that age, because at that point kids will just kind of still wear whatever you throw at them, whereas the clothes that I was selling that my daughter had grown out of, she's 9 now. So I was selling sizes like 5 through 8. And at that point, kids are a lot pickier. You can't just buy anything because kids will refuse to wear a lot of things. And so I think that's part of the reason. And I do think it's really hard to find good used boys clothing because boys like really wear their clothes into the ground. You notice that too if you go to like Goodwill or if you go to kids consignment stores. The boys section is just generally not as robust as girls sections. And so I think people really are on the hunt for good used clothing in good condition for their boys. And even as I was doing the show, I was asking people like, hey, how did you find out about the show? You know, are you a viewer? Are you someone from Instagram? And some people were like, I just saw that there was a boys kids show and so I came on. So I sold 40 items at that show for a gross sales amount of $194. And once you factor in Whatnot's fees, that total drops to $152. So let's talk numbers for this great week of sales. On Poshmark, I sold 14 items, and that was for a gross sales amount of $289. Once you factor in Poshmark's fees and any shipping discounts that I offered, that total drops to $224.34. I had $34.28 into those items, so I made a net profit of $190.06 on Poshmark. On eBay, I sold 7 items for a gross sales amount of $276.88. Once you factor in eBay's fees, that total drops to $232.28. I had $32.36 into those 7 items, and so I made a net profit of $199.92. On Mercari, I only sold 4 items, and that was for a gross sales amount of $156. Once you factor in Mercari's fees, that total drops to $133.87. I had $7.46 as my cost of goods for those items, and so I made a net profit on Mercari of $126.41. On Depop, I sold 2 items for a gross sales amount of $125, which is amazing. It was those fleek sweaters. And so once you factor in Depop's fees and the fact that I paid for shipping on those items, that total drops to $98.47. I had $3.67 into those 2 items from the fleek box, so I made a net profit of $94.80. On Facebook Marketplace, I sold 2 items for a gross sales amount of $45. Once you factor in Facebook Marketplace's fees, that total drops to $41.48. I had $6.82 into those 2 items, and so my net profit on Facebook Marketplace was $34.66. Moving on to Kidizen, I had one sale that gave me a gross sales amount of $13. Once you factor in the fact that I paid for shipping and Kidizen's fees, that total drops to $6.67. However, it was an item that I just, was given for free, so I had no cost of goods, and my net profit was $6.67. And then I had one direct sale in the form of that cabbie sweater, that turtleneck sweater, that sold for $30 with me paying for shipping. And so once you factor in the shipping and maybe PayPal fees or something, that total drops to $22.45. I had $1 into that item from the new consignment store that I tried out in, a few towns over, about an hour away. And so I made a net profit of $21.45. I sold 40 of my son's old pieces on Whatnot for a gross sales amount of $194. Once you take out Whatnot's fees, that total drops to $152. And I'm saying I had 0 cost of goods because basically everything that I sold was stuff that my son had worn, and so my net profit was $152. So in total, I sold, I guess you could say 71 items if you want to include the Whatnot pieces, but traditionally I sold 31 items, and that was for a gross sales amount of $1,128.88. Once you factor in all of the fees, all of the shipping, that total drops to $911.56. I had $85.59 as my cost of goods for the entire week, which is really great. That's a pretty low cost of goods. And so my net profit for the week was $825.97. My weekly goal is $833.33, so I was just shy of that, but listen, I was pretty happy with this particular sales week because it was back to back, just great with last week's sales and this week, just some really great numbers, which I desperately needed because sales had been pretty rough, but don't worry, they get really rough again in the next few weeks that we'll talk about. We dropped to below 400. It it gets really rough out there. So I had a little bit of time to celebrate in some really great sales, and then things went in the crapper again real fast. So that's how reselling goes. I know I've shared that on this channel before, but it's up and down. It's great and then it sucks. And that's just the truth of reselling, especially if you are not doing it full time and you don't have the ability to stay consistent with your listing. When you have to taper off of your listing some, your sales are going to reflect that. And that's okay, especially if you're doing this part-time. It's okay to build in time to allow for your full-time job to get really busy, or if you've got a lot of stuff happening at home. It's okay. It's just nice to have extra money coming in, whether it's $800, whether it's $300. It's all extra money that, I didn't have in the first place. So I'm really thankful for that. That is it for today's video. But before you go, I would love it if you could leave some feedback down in the comments below regarding what you would like to see from my What Sold videos in the future, moving forward. I'm so kind of married to this format of What Sold video just because this is what I've been doing. And while it is a lot of work to put these videos together, I'm not gonna lie, it's still manageable. It's not like I'm selling 100 things a week. Maybe that's because I spend all of my time putting together these videos, but it is still manageable and I can definitely keep them like this. But you let me know what you would like to see. Let me know if you want me to keep things exactly the same. Let me know if you'd rather see something else as far as What Sold videos are concerned. I make these videos for you. I don't make them for me. So I would love to hear from you what it is that you want to see and what will help you benefit the most. So if you don't mind leaving me a comment down in the comments below regarding what you'd like to see in the future, I would super duper appreciate it. But that is it for this video. Don't forget to hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe if you are brand new to my channel. And if you are brand new, oh my goodness, I'm so thankful that you are here and that you are here all the way at the end. Thank you so much. But I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.